Yeah, so it's Friday again, and I've got well, here's the hovercraft on there. I did a bunch of work this week I did a bunch of work with the tractor doing stuff, right? And I think I mentioned Biff's equipment before. And then I did some work on in here. I've got the Triumph, the TR7 is ready to go for inspection as soon as on July 4th, actually. I have an appointment for it. So that's good for that. So the rest of the week, I did some work on the Triumph. I did a little bit on this, but I'm still waiting for some parts. So I'll just be patient with it. But then most of the week was on the VW van. Over on this side, behind door 5, is the VW van. And I've been starting to work on getting the motor back together. So I've got that far done. It's all like the two halves are put together, the crankcase is in there, new rod cap bearings, new bearings on the main bearings of the crankcase, new bearings on the camshaft. I wasn't able to find a new camshaft for it, but I was satisfied that the one that's in it is okay. And the crankshaft itself looked pretty good, so I'm happy with that. Pistons on this one likely could have been a bit better, but that's the way it is right now, and that's the way it'll stay. I think they'll be fine. If they aren't, I'll find out somewhere on a lonely highway, right? But altogether, and same old thing, I only broke this bit right here, and I think that'll hold. It's not a pressure point, it's just oil seal goes up next to it there. And so, anyhow, but you stick around, I'll see how I got things going together here and how I had to do things 3 times, which is normal around here, right? So, I'll see you all next week. I hope you enjoy it, and we'll carry on down the road. Yeah, it only feels like forever, but here I am back on the Volkswagen. Hey, hasn't changed. It looks the same here. Finally got, this is very hard to track down, this part here. Rear main seal. And it sure looks like the other one that came out of it, so likely be okay. I want to check the other seals that I got. So I did get the rear main seal, and then I got the what else is there? A whole box full of goodies here. Let's see what's in here. Okay, so in here, in box number 10, hey, this is I think this is the seal. Wait till I'm just have it in my hand here and have you pointing at the ground, right? This one here, that's the seal that goes on the end of the, what do you call that? On the end of the torque converter, that name that I can never remember. Okay, torque converter seal I have, right? Rear main seal, I've got that. Put that in a box. Put it away. These things here are where they go on the end of the injector, like intake pipes on the injector. Now they're not specific to this vehicle, so I'll have to put a clamp on them here to keep the vacuum, but they fit reasonably well. They don't fit as snug. Well, actually the old ones are falling apart, so they don't fit snug at all. So these will be fine. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. That's a new oil drain plug thing that I saw was all bent in here. Now I don't know that this is exactly what I intended to have, but I'll see what intentions do later. And then I've got a new oil pump for it, which would be pretty skookum. That'll make it a happy van, right? Put that up with those things there. A couple of gaskets and things. And then this one here, this is the front oil seal on the well, the back of the car, right? At the very back of the machine for oil seal for the back end of the thing. Goes on there somewhere. Of the crankshaft. Whoops, put it in the box so I don't destroy it. Now, see what else I have here. I've got other parts here. So that's one box number umpteen here. What's this box here got in it? Oh boy, I got stuff. So this is all the gaskets. That's all the gasket set for everything, right? Box number umpteen. All the gaskets except for the valve cover gaskets, which are up there. And in here, here's another box full of stuff. Empty bag, which is be handy for stuff. Piston rings for the whole thing, right? This is the fuel pressure regulator, which is, you know, that thing that wasn't working and created all this stuff created all the taken apart of stuff. This is what started it all. Fuel pressure regulator. That thing there is connecting rod bearing sets. So that's good to have them, right? There they are. They look like that. I'll put them in here with these things here, which is sort of that end of the world. And this is the main bearing sets, which I finally figured out how to fit them. They're all in there. Now, the only bearing set that I'm missing now, and there's new injectors for the thing. My friend told me I was cursing too much, so I'm not allowed to say damn anymore, right? So, there's new injectors for the thing. And these ones here are, they're slightly improved from the older style, I think. I don't know though. So I can go in that box. Well, no, they go in this box right here, because that's where that goes. And then what else have I got in boxes? I'll put this box back in the van here. Then in this box here, whoa, way over here, this is for the roof and a new tent to go up there, right? Can you see that? Well, you can't really see it too well because it's way up there. See if I can point you up there a bit. Yeah, somewhere up there. That's where the new tent goes. And then this box here is full of all sorts of running gear stuff. Like it's got all the rubbers and stuff like that it need to make the thing run nicely on the highway without rattling itself all apart. So I'm pretty near ready to go. The only thing I'm waiting for is the bearings for this little guy here. Now this is your, what do you call this thing? Oh dear me. Anyhow, whatever it's called, I've cleaned it up on the wire wheel, so it's actually fairly decent looking. There's a little bit of wear on it, but not too much. I'll remember the name of this thing soon. Isn't that something? But I'm waiting for bearings for that, because in here, like this bearing here is good, this bearing here is good, this bearing here not so good. That's where all the business end of it is, right there. So that's good. Now, I haven't decided yet. These are what you call valve trailers, right? So they go up and down on this thing here, which is called camshaft. Aha, there we go. Finally got it. So the camshaft is in there. I've tried ordering a new one, and they're not really available anywhere that I can find. And they seem to be this part here. Whoops, where can I show you this somehow? Like down in here. Wait till I get more light here. There. So where am I pointing? Am I pointing the right way? Yeah, more or less. So this is where the bearing sits, and that looks clean. This one here, you see that little bit of a burr in there, but there's a, that's machined into it. I don't know that the burr is machined into it, but there's a low spot machined into it there. I think that's for lead oil up and down on the thing. So where the action happens is up here, and there's also a little machine spot on the top of it there to let oil pass. So they seem to be all okay. So I'm going to let that pass and let that be, because that's I don't want to put a racing camshaft in it, nor can I find one of them either. I might have considered it if I could find one, but I can't find one. So that's where that ends up right there. Anyway, there you go. All the pieces are here except for the bearings for this, and they're on the way. Yay. They're in FedEx's hands. So as long as they're the right ones, it'll all go back together. So I can start working on this, and like it's going to take some cleaning and stuff like that. I imagine I could pull these valve guide followers out, clean them up, clean up all that inside there, clean up the outside, and then would go from there. Have a clean machine to start. Yeah, no, new lips. So I finished dismantling everything here, including taking out these bolts that hold the crankcase together, which are, you know, surprise, surprise, there's, I don't know what it is, but it's got sort of a thing like that in there. Can you see that? It's around each one of these bolts. So I'll figure out what that is. I'll clean them old ones off. Then I did take the camshaft bearings out of it. They are pretty wore out. A couple of them are exceptionally bad, like that one there. I guess that's what they're made for. They're made to wear in the and save the camshaft, because the camshaft actually looks pretty good. So I guess we'll see what happens. The new ones come, see if they fit. Should make a difference. Should make it a little bit quieter running. Anyway, there. That's all apart. Now I just have to take it out and start cleaning on it, which is interesting. Cleaning is not too bad because you just use that cleaning fluid and water, and that'll get it cleaned up nicely, or fairly nice. A little bit of wire brush. So I'll go and work on cleaning it, and I'll let these bolts and things soak in the cleaning fluid. Yeah, there it is, mostly cleaned off. All the big junk's off it anyhow. This was full of yuck in there, and that's cleaned out, which is good. And up in here, this air vent was full of yuck, and it's mostly cleaned out. The rest I'll just get it with a scraper and clean it up a bit more. But that was with the power washer out there and everything like that, and it seems to, power washer seems to take all the heavy grease off of it. There you go. Anyhow, that's half of it done. I'll do the other half, which is over here still. Yeah, there now I've got most of the big yuck off them. In fact, I got all the big yuck off them. I just have to clean up the little bits of yuck. There's still a bit like this, call it varnish in there, I guess is what a good name for it. That stuff there is hard to get off, but I'll give it a little bit more cleaning with that's toothbrush stuff, right? We'll clean it up a bit more, but all the grease and stuff is out of these grooves, which are the air cooling grooves, and all the yuck's out of the bottom of it. So I'm happy with that. And I cleaned up all the bolts. Did them on a wire wheel. And so, yeah, it looks pretty good. Now I'll think about starting to reassemble it, but that'll be a tomorrow thing, because today I'm just done for the day. It's 5:30. Time to go and make supper. Yeah, back on the Volkswagen motor now. A couple of things that... So I cleaned this. This is the little cap that goes over the top of the camshaft right there. The oil seal for the camshaft. Well, not really a seal. It's just a cap for it. Keep oil in, right? It goes right there, and you use just silicone to seal it. So I cleaned that off on the wire wheel. It came out pretty nice and clean. That's serviceable. Then in here, there's all these little tiny, like, I don't know, can you see that? The little tiny plug right there. That's for seating the, whatever you call that thing. Seating the bearing when you go and put the crankshaft back in. So I'll pull them all out, just clean them off with a Q-tip underneath. Clean them out the holes with the Q-tip, put them back in there, and thankfully I didn't lose any of them while I was, in a frenzy of cleaning things. But if I did, I guess I could find them again. Don't know. Yeah, so how do you set up the camshaft when you want to put it back together? This gear goes onto the crankshaft, right? And it's got two very nicely, two little dots. Very small dots, and you have to be using your imagination to find them sometimes, but I did find them. Anyhow, and then this one has a much larger dot. This is the camshaft pulley, or gear. Has a much larger dot, so I've made, and it was, so I put black on that, put white on these guys. And when they go together, that's the ones that should come together, and then you'll be at, should be at top dead center, number 1 cylinder. Methinks. Anyhow, I'll test it out when I get there with the crankshaft. Not quite ready to put the crankshaft in yet. I suppose I could start putting together the pistons and rings and stuff like that, because it's getting to be that time. And I can slide, I don't know if I can slide them into the sleeves and then hook them to the crankshaft later. Well, I'll think about that, because I'd likely get it all upside down if I try doing that. Anyhow, for now, this thing here is a puzzle solved that I didn't know the answer to. Yeah, so there, when you put it together, the crankshaft will be across here, and the camshaft sits here. No bearings there yet, but when the bearings come, I'll put them in, and I'll put it all together. And that's how those dots, so you see those 3 dots, there's the 2 dots on the crankshaft one, and 1 dot on the camshaft one, and they line up. Then this would be top dead center on piston number 1. So the valve would be closed, valve would be closed on piston number 2 and 4. One of the valves is open on piston number 3. One of the valves is open on piston number 2. Cool. Anyway, there you go. That's all there is to that. Yeah, back with the tap and die set. Now, M10 1.25, that's the size that is needed for this bolt that goes through the motor to hold the 2 motor halves together, right? So what I'm doing is I'm just cleaning the threads on any that don't take a, so I took this nut and I cleaned out this nut, and then if it doesn't run on the threads easily, then I'll clean them with the thing here, which I've done on this one, and it should run easily on this one now, because it wouldn't thread on this before, and that's likely from me pounding away at it to get it out of the motor, that when I was getting them out of the motor. Those 2 were good. This one here works now very well. No sweat. Now I'll just go through the rest, and there's 6 altogether. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, I'll go through them all and get them cleaned thread. Yeah, anyhow, there they are. 6 of them all cleaned up, so that the threads are clean at the end here, both on the nut and the bolt part. Good enough. Yep. Okay, so now these, same thing for this. These are the head bolts, or the cylinder bolts, that hold on the cylinders and the heads. So I'm making sure that they all are clean. So these ones here need some cleaning. These ones are all good except for that one there. And then that side there I've already done. They're all nice and clean. And the nuts, head nuts, focusing failed. Wonder why. Anyway, the head nuts will spin on nice and easily. Then I'll go and I'll clean them off with cleaning stuff. Yeah, now that's all done. Got them all cleaned off. And the ones through here, the ones that hold the head on, are M10 1.5 thread. The ones that hold the crankcase together through these holes here, 6 holes, they're M10 1.25 thread. Anyhow, there you go. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so I put my, remember those clippy things I made? Well, I put them back in because they actually keep those valve followers, or yeah, is it valve followers? Or anyhow, these things here, I put them back in. I got to clean them off and put a bunch of redo the engine lube stuff, whatever they call that stuff. Here, look at this. Ultra slick engine assembly lube. So I put a bunch of that, you know, or lots of it on those, and they do slide right through. So you want to just be careful you don't lose them out the other side, right? Now I've cleaned these pins. I think I told you that, and I've got these are all functioning properly. So I'll carry on. I'll put the valve, I'll clean off the valve follower stuff here on this side and put them back in. You don't need to put the clippy things on this side because it usually sits level. This side here is always sitting with the side down so that you can assemble stuff. Anyhow, there you go. Yeah, so the valve followers, I numbered them, like this is number 1. Didn't put a number in there, didn't put a number in there. This is number 4 over here. I scratched the number 4 in there. I don't know if you can see that or not. Number 1 there. And then I very carefully numbered them. 1, 2, 3, 4. And over on this side there were 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I wouldn't get them mixed up. I got them back into the same position that they came out of. Yeah, there it is. Valve followers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, actually 1 is there. 1, 2, 3, 4. All in on both halves of the motor. So I didn't put any clippy things on this side here because it's not hanging down. This side here, it's got clippy things on the other side down underneath there to keep the followers from following out, right? Okay, that's enough of that. Now the next thing is to go over and get those nuts and bolts I was cleaning on the other side over there done. Yeah, here we are now. All the nuts spin on nice and easily on this side. I'll check the other side and see how things are over there. There we go. Yeah, so here we are. It's time to quit and go have a beer on the deck. Because look at that, the sun is really shining out there. It's a nice day out. All of a sudden, no rain. Nothing like that. Father's Day. I don't know, June sometime in 2022. So, see you tomorrow. Yeah, here I am getting way ahead of you again. So, now, that's the new bearing on there. And a bunch of that looby-loob stuff on it. This part here was like there's the spacer here, and then this gear with the 2 dots on it for finding the top dead center. I was worried about that getting on there, but I just heated it up with a propane torch and, you know, evenly heated it around, and then it just put a bunch of this lubricant on like this, just so I'd have something to slide on, and then it just dropped right on there, like it went on, and then now it's tight on there now. You'd have to use the puller to pull it off again. So that worked. So this one here, I will heat it also. You know, don't be too hard on them, but heat them lightly. Like I just heat one side of it. Then I go to the other side. And this just expands it a bit so it'll fit onto the center easier. And then I let it set for a minute or two and let the heat come into it whilst I get my welding glove, which is very important for this operation because when you go and lift that thing up, it's pretty hot stuff. So there, I got the welding glove. Then I'll just heat it again. on both sides. And I think that's enough. Then you just take it and you got the side with the scratches and the numbers out. Yeah, side with the scratches out. And then it just might just drop right on there if I'm lucky. Yeah, so there, just drops right on. And then the next thing is a snap ring goes in there. So that was excessively simple and I was worried about it, right? So now I'll get the snap ring and put that in, and that part's done. I'll put the rest of the bearings on and install it into the, let it set in there for a while. Yeah, anyway, there's the snap ring. I took it over and cleaned it up on the wire wheel, and it's looking pretty okay. So I'll reinstall that and see how that works out. Yeah, so there are the snap rings back on there. I use these snap ring tools, which I just pushed it across and then it slid down in. Everything is much simpler going back on than it was coming off, that's for sure. Now, next is the bearing there. Bearing, half a shell bearing in here on that one, and the main bearing over here. So that's one bearing on that one bearing on that one, and then a half shell on the inside here. Then I can set it down inside there, perhaps. Well, we'll see. Was I pointing the right way? I think so. Yeah, so a half a shell here, bearing there, bearing there, bearing there, and then it slides into place, or just slides down. Okay. Yeah, there, that dropped in fairly easy. It wasn't like I had to twist this, like this one here, you can move it back and forth a bit in there. So it's, but it's, you can feel that it's on the nut. This one here doesn't move a bit, and you can see that it's fairly well seated, so it's got to be in this spot. This one here, I can't get it, it won't move any because, well, it's a tight fit. But it seems to be in all the way, so I think we're okay. This one here, like that half of a shell is on in there. The other half shell, you have to stick it on this side here and let it set there so that it'll all come back together properly. So I'll just put this is the half shell left over. It goes in the box. And that's it for today. I'll put a rag over, I'll put something over this to keep the dust out of it. And then that'll be good. So tomorrow I'll get the camshaft in and lined up right. So somehow you got to just turn this around until you get the two dots, right? Where are those two dots? There's the two dots right there. So those two dots line up with the one dot on the camshaft. These two dots right there line up with one dot in the camshaft, and then your top dead center number one, which looks like, what is number one? No idea. I'll figure that out. It's just, no, they're just timing marks. It doesn't give you top dead center of anything. Top dead center would be this thing at the split, right? So that's right. I'll see what happens when I get it all together. See what it looks like when it comes all together. Because it looks like these are all halfway now, right there. Oh, I don't know, but we'll find out. Okay, that's all I know. Yeah. See you tomorrow. I hope. Nice night out now. Yeah, so here I am at the connecting rods, right? So they have this, I had to go over to the wire wheel and clean this off, but you can see there's numbers here, and they got to be matching numbers. This is 889, and that's 889, and they have to be on the same side. When the connecting rod is sitting in the motor, this tab, I don't know, can you see that? Oh, See where the tab, see that little tab on the, whatever you call that, on the bearing? There's that little tab on the bearing. It is oriented to the bottom of the motor. So, numbers matching here, right? This one here is 366, 366. That's good. This one here is 920 or 626 and 626. That's good. That one there matches. This one here, don't you know I had them backwards, so there's the number is 564 on that side, and over on this side it's 560, whoops, yeah, 564, but I have that on backwards, so I'll change that around and get it right before I put it in. So bottom of the motor is here. So number 3, oh, that's number 2. Where did number 3 go? Number 3 is this one, right? So it'll go in from the other side and it'll come in and connect like that. Numbers up and journals down, or tabs down. So I have a new set of bearings somewhere on the planet. I'll put them in and start assembling that the way it is. Good. That was my question for the day, and I found the answers. So I'll carry on. There you go, number 3 is in. And then I see how it sort of falls by itself there. I've tightened it down to 25 foot-pounds, or whatever it says in the book here, yeah. 35 nanometers, or 25 foot-pounds. And put a bit of Loctite on the bolt. So that's tightened down. Then see how that just falls by itself? So I've turned it around in a bunch of places to make sure that it does fall by itself without any binding, because there can't be any binding on it. So there you go. So that's good. That's that side done over there. And this one here is number 4. I'll do that next. And then I'll do number 1 and number 2. They sort of hang on this side, and they'll have to go through the crankcase when I put it back together. Okay, that's next is number 4. Yeah, so here's piston number 1. So here's what I mean by it falling by itself. So it just does that fairly easily, and then you can move it around to a different spot on the crank and just let it go, and it falls down. So that means nothing's binding in there. That's good. Yeah, and then same thing, numbers, matching numbers on here. Oh, focusing failed. Who knows why. Anyhow, matching numbers on here. Numbers are the same, and you can't see it anymore, but towards the bottom, this is the bottom going that way, is these are on top, and when it's sitting horizontal, those numbers are on top and the tabs are on the bottom. So that's the way it should be. That's what the book says. There's number 2 in, and it does the float test, or whatever you want to call it. Number 1 does the float test. So everything's good. The other 2 are in here, and they just, no problem with mobility. They do whatever they're supposed to do. Now, next is putting the camshaft bearings in here, and I gotta remember to put the camshaft thing for the cover there. So I'll get on that next. Cool. Yeah, so it's every one of them, I put a bit of Loctite on them and made them all down to 25 foot-pounds, 36 nanometers, right? So that's good. They're all set to go. Yeah, so there's 2 dots on that one there and 1 dot on that matched up. So that's in about the right place, appropriate spot. And then I've put the bearings in underneath there, and they seem to sit all right, and everything seems to seat okay. So I guess we're all right. Then next is I have to put the bolts through and put the little clippy things on the bolts. There's little plastic clippy things that go on the bolts. And then I can throw the other half of the motor on. I think I have to put this in before I forget. Yep, that's important. Yeah, there you go. Those are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 main bolts. And they have these little plastic things that go on like that and like that all the way along to hold them in, number one, hold them in place and center them in the hole. And then you can slide this other side on and they should slide together. We'll see what happens here. Yeah, a bit ahead of you again. So that I had to put it together, take it apart, get it all lined up again, put it together again, and I've got it together this time. I think it's, yeah, and the things move in there, so that's okay. As long as the pistons move, we're all right. Hey? So they seem to all move okay, and the camshaft is moving, and the followers are following, we hope. Yeah. So there. Now, matter of just, I've got one bolt here and one bolt here through and reasonably snug. So I'll push the rest of those bolts through here. So here's a hint. You only put these bolts in that far on this side. I get my hand into more yuck. I got my hands all covered with complete yuck everywhere. That gasket maker around the edges there. Oh well. Anyway, so the hint is only to put these big bolts in that far so that you can just get the little plastic tab on it in there. Because if you try to push it all on, it just doesn't line up. So then, if you do that, and then you can put it all together and it just sort of falls together properly. I gave it a judicious pound with a rubber hammer and everything dropped into place, which is quite nice. Anyway, there you go. Am I pointing the right way? I'm pointing all over the place, right? So, new bearings everywhere in there, like on the camshaft, new bearings. On the, what do you call that thing? The next thing over is the crankshaft, new bearings, and all the connecting rods, new bearings. So it should be pretty good inside there. And they all seem to fit nicely. So I'll just go ahead and I'll just pound in the rest of these, like I'm just pounding them in, these bolts, the big ones. Now I'll put a bolt on them and just snug them up, get all the 1/2-inch ones in, and then torque them down after that. Yeah, so I got in the mail today comes the repair manual for these things from Amazon, which is kind of nice. Nice big book. So, and it says to, when you put it together, to coat all these with sealing compound, like whatever that stuff is. Permatex Aviation Formagasket. So that Rusty Beauties, the guy on Rusty Beauties, he likes this aviation Permatex stuff. So I went and got some because if it's good enough for him, it's pretty likely is good enough for me. Then these goes to, these get torqued down to 22 foot-pounds. So I'll torque them up. And then all the other bolts, like these bolts in here, it says to also coat them with sealing compound. And then they get to 15 foot-pounds. So I'll start putting bolts in. Yeah, there. Doesn't that just look dandy all together and everything? But you do know how much I love doing things twice, because this part here is supposed to be on the inside. Oh dear me. I guess I'm going to pull it apart and put that part in. I don't think there's any other parts that are supposed to be on the inside. Oh, isn't that disappointing? Yeah, so there you go. It's all apart again. And I didn't even wreck anything. Well, what do you know about that? So I have to paint it all again, right? With that yucky goop. But I'll leave that for tomorrow, I think, because here's the one end of it goes in here. There's a, where am I? Right in there. There's, need to put a seal on there, and then the other bit hangs right there on this thing. Now I should have had a clue when I saw that, but didn't have a clue, so there you go. I imagine I can just take this stuff out of here again and put new in for tomorrow, right? There we go. Anyway, then paint it all and then put it all back together again. But boy, I like doing stuff 3 or 4 times, eh? Anyway, that's it for today. Yeah, now for episode umpteen, putting the Volkswagen back together. So that's where I left off yesterday, was with have to repaint all the gasket goop along here and along here. That stuff is real goopy and ucky. And first off, though, I'll put in the piece that I forgot to put in that goes right here. And it's the oil scavenge. Scavenge? Yeah. It's where it picks up the oil out of the filter, I guess, somewhere. I don't know where it comes from. This would be the front of the motor, right? Yeah. So it comes in from here. And that pipe goes up into here somewhere. So the filter goes on somewhere out here. We'll figure that out after. Anyway, that's where it comes from and that's where it goes to, so I better put it on. Yeah, so here we go. It's time to try putting it together again. Hopefully it. Time number umpteen. 3 anyhow, or 4. See if it'll work. Yeah, there we go. So there's a bolt that goes through from the other side and through this oil pan thing and into the wall here. It holds things together. So I put that one in first. And I didn't tighten it. I just made it a little bit snug. Then I tightened up the rest of these. There's 6 big ones that go around. So do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's kind of in that order, eh? Am I pointing the right way? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that way around. And then now I'll check and see that indeed the thing will turn in there again. Everything turns. Well, I guess I need 2 hands for that. So I'll double check. I'll check that and then I'll report back. Yeah, so here you go. Everything turns in there quite nicely without any feeling of any problems. I'll see if the risers work on all the valves. Look like they're working. I'll just stick my finger in there and see. Yeah, so I checked all the valve followers and they work on both sides, up and down, up and down. So now I'll put in the rest of these bolts on the peripheral, plus this bit here, which goes on at the same time, somewhere around here, right? Like that idea there. And that's a part of the air business. Anyway, here, I'll get at it. Yeah, now there, that's all the nuts and bolts are on there, and the small ones, like the 1/2 inch stuff, it gets tightened to 15 pounds, foot-pounds, right? And the big ones, they get tightened to about 25 foot-pounds. So that's all together, and it looks like it all came together nice and squished the gasket cement out. Then they say you're supposed to put a little bit of gasket goop on each end of these bolts when they go in. That's, I guess, to seal it up. Same with all the other little tiny bolts. So that seals everything up. So there's lots of gasket goop everywhere, right? Anyway, that's that part done. Now, next is, what do I need next? What day is it? I wonder, Thursday. So I could start working on, should I put the oil pump in? I could put the oil pump in, and that would be another thing out of the way. I have a new oil pump for it. That would be that done and a gasket out of the way, right? So maybe I'll do that right now. It goes right here. and it's pretty low-hanging fruit. I don't think anything else will get in the way of it. Okay, so I'll see if I can prime the oil pump and put it in there. Yeah, so the new oil pump just slides on, no troubles. I'll clean up that red stuff, the red, whatever there. Then I put a bunch of that red ultra slick engine assembly stuff in there just to prime it a bit, because you can't really pour oil into it. Too bad, but that's the way it is. Yeah, so there we go. That's all the bolts put in, and I had one nut left over. It was this one right down in here that I'd forgotten to put in, and I've got the oil pump on there. I did use the original studs, but they don't, like, you can see that it doesn't quite fill the nut. So I put Loctite on all those nuts to make sure that they're going to stay there. I'm pretty sure they will anyhow. I'm not too worried about it. This is the air intake manifold. This thing, air intake manifold for the injection system. And then this part here is where it comes from, the the mass, the machine that measures the mass of air going in goes to here. But there was no gasket around that, so I think I should figure out a gasket for that. Maybe it comes in the kit over there, who knows. Anyhow, tomorrow I'll start, well, I did start today working on the cylinders. Right there's cylinder number 1, and I took out this set of things here. One of the rings is way too big. I have to grind it back so they get the right gap on it. And the other rings, this ring here, the gap is likely okay. This one here needs some grinding on it to get the great gap. There's piston number 1. I've cleaned it all up. And there's an X on it somewhere here. That's an X there. There's supposed to be an arrow somewhere. There's an arrow. And that arrow there points towards the flywheel. So when you install it, it's got to go like that way there, I think. I'll read the book to make sure I get it right. Anyway, that'll be tomorrow. More to come. Yeah, so I wonder where I left you off yesterday. But I've got the piston cleaned off, all the ring. It was actually exceptionally clean, so it must have been not too long since it was apart. I don't know. Who knows? But it's pretty clean. And then I found when I cleaned it, I found there's an arrow here somewhere. Where did I see the arrow? One of these things has an arrow. There it is. There's the arrow there. So that arrow, that's got to be pointing towards the flywheel. So when it's on the motor, this is piston number 1 right here. It's got to be pointing that way. Yeah, see? Number 1. Hey, everything better say number 1. So it's got to point that way. Whoops. Yeah, there. That way to make it fit right. Then, now the next thing is gapping the oil scraper ring. Gap, it's got to be 0.25 to 0.04 millimeters. And the wear limit's 95 millimeters, so that's quite a bit. Hey, anyhow, but I've got, see the gap in there. I'll get my gappers and measure that. So the first one was the oil ring, and it gapped out a little bit bigger than spec. It was like it says 0.25 to 0.40, so it's just slightly bigger as 0.50 millimeters, but the wear length is 0.95 millimeters. It was much less than that. So the next one is the upper and middle ring, and they both should be 0.4 to 0.65 millimeters. So I'll just check on them. So this is the middle ring, and it's very, like, there's quite a bit of filing to do here to get it down to the right amount. So I'll just start filing on it. Yeah, now wait till I get some light happening here. No wonder I'm blind. Hey, so there's the middle one now. and I've got that gapped. It says 40 to 65. So in here, and then this is a 63 gap here, and it fits tight. So we're likely around about 60 there on that one, which is good. So all the rings are gapped okay now. Now just a matter of installing them on here, installing the piston on there, and then getting this pushed on. See what happens. Yeah, so now how to get the wrist pin back in without bashing it all to hell. So you just, one of these big woodworking clamps, right? And you just push it in with that. Once you get it lined up and going, then it works reasonably well. Not perfectly. Something's hanging here, so I'll just check it out. I'll have to use need two hands on it. Yeah, now then after you get that, trouble focusing on there. See in there? Can you see in there? There's the snap rings in there now too. So push it in all the way with the little C-clamp thing. And this side here, I already had the snap ring in there, ready to, receive it. Then, as far as the rings go, so you put one, the gap on one ring here, okay? This gap here, at least 90 degrees away from it, wherever it is, right there somewhere. That's the bottom one there is over here. And where's the middle one? The middle one must be on the other side here somewhere. Find it. Can't even find it, right? Well, there's the middle one there. So these ones here are too close together, so I got to turn them. I'll turn them and I'll show you. Did you see any of that? Not likely. There, got it fixed up. So gap here for the top one, gap somewhere about here for the next one, and gap over here for the bottom one. So they're all away from each other. Arrow pointing towards flywheel, which is over there. Now I'll do the next one, and then I'll see if I can get some pistons on here. Yeah, now sizing these things again, right? I've got the piston cleaned up pretty nicely. Sizing these things, so that's 40 millimeter. Supposed to be 25 to 40 millimeter. And this is the oil ring, or the scraper ring they call it. So that 40 millimeters sort of fits in there. The wear limit's like 95 millimeters, so we're plenty good with that. Yeah, that other ring must have been, like this one here has got a gap in it there. A little bit bigger. The it calls like for 65 millimeters, and it's like, I think it's about a 70 in there, so that's not up to the wear limit, but it is bigger than what it calls for. But anyway, that's what's happening here today. Yeah, now there's the top ring. The gap is right there. So that one there is also bigger than 60, but it's around 75 also. Wear limit 90 millimeters, so we're okay there. Yeah, so same thing here. The I've got this C-clamp thing on there, and it's just pushing the pin in slowly without any hammering. And I've got the arrow pointed, this arrow pointed to the flywheel. So it'll be all together here in a minute again, and I'll put the snap ring back in. Yeah, now that's 2 pistons on. I'm gonna just do this side complete, then I'll do the other side complete. So first, I have to figure out a way to get the rings into the piston, or the cylinder. That is the piston. That is the cylinder, and so is that. So I honed them all out on another episode a long time ago. So they're all pretty clean. These pistons have both been, like there's been some dirt or something got into here, but I think they're serviceable. They seem to be all right. So I'll carry on with them, and we'll just see how things go. Someday, if I have to, I'll just do it again and put new pistons in it. We'll see what happens. Yeah, so what I really need here now is a ring compression tool. And don't you know, I went over there on that bench, looked around a bit, and lo and behold, here's a ring compression tool. Now, I don't remember the last time I used this thing, but I bet you it was back in the 1980s. But there it was, still hanging up where it's been for 10 years or more. Or actually, it's been for, yeah, more than 10 years it's been there. So, what the hell? Just there when you want it, so that's good enough for me. Now, I'll get that on here, clean this stuff up. I made a bit of a mess trying to do it without the ring compression tool. So I'll clean it up and then see if I can get the ring compression tool on there, show you what it looks like when it's on, and then I'll see if I can get that first piston on. First cylinder on here. Yeah, so there it is on the thing ready to go in. So I hope that it might have to be a little bit tighter than that. So I'll just unloosen it and then I'll tighten it up a bit so I get a proper gap on there. Hang on. Yeah, that went on. Interesting. So now when you get it on, you just loosen off this and unhook it there and see if you can get the pieces out. There's one side out. Get the other side out. There's the two sides out. Cool. That works very well, that. I don't know how long I've had that, but I guess I had it for a while. Then I can just press this on the rest of the way. I've put a bunch of goop inside the cylinder there. So I'll see if I can get it on the rest of the way now. Now what I did was I used a rubber hammer and just sort of tapped it gently until it pushed it past where the rings are. And I feel that they're on okay. Well, cool. That made it a lot easier than I thought it was. Thought it would be. Anyhow, I'll see what I can get it the rest of the way on, and that will be good. There's number 1 on, so arrow pointing to flywheel, right? And it says number 1 here, so I've got to believe it's number 1. And it only will fit one way because there's a flat side here. So now I have to turn the motor over and get this side here up so I can put the I'll put a bunch of oil goop in there, and then I'll put the piston ring compressor on it. My new favorite tool, hey? And I really don't know how long it's been laying around, but I guess it's I remember I had a cheap one. Like a long time ago I had a cheap one, and then I went and I bought a good one, which this is a good one. And it makes a big difference when you have a good one. They work right. Anyway, there you go. I'll carry on. Yeah, so the base of the cylinder, base of the cylinder gets one of these little aluminum gaskets. They come together as a group of 4. And it goes on right there, but I put some gasket goop on it, this aviation gasket, forma gasket stuff. Put that on, and then I'll have that ready to go, because otherwise I'll forget. So that'll be the first thing I do right now. Yeah, so there, that's all set to go with this gasket on there, and one of these rings on it. I did that for that piston. I neglected to show it to you, so I'll make sure I showed you on this one. Now, next, I need to put this stuff here, which is that ultra slick engine assembly lube, onto the rings and get them into the right position. Then get my thing back onto it, whatever you call that thing, the ring compressor. Yeah, there's the ring compressor on for the number 2. This little divot here, it pokes through one of these many holes, so it'll take many sizes of pistons, and then you just clamp it on like a I don't know what anyhow, it's on. I have to just move it a little bit this way so that it'll create more freedom for this to move back and forth. I'll do that and then I'll be back to you. Yeah, so there's number 2. Once I get it down to the wrist pin here, then I'm happy that all the rings are in place and seated properly. Well, not seated yet. And then you just tap it a bit like that. and it'll go down some more. Now I can release this thing, so you just, whoops, where am I? Release that right there. Then you have to jigger around in here to get that unhooked, and it pulls out then. So I'll just jigger around a bit and get it unhooked and pull it out, and I'll get the piston on the rest of the way. Yeah, so now once it's, what do you call it there? Once I've got that thing out of the way there, then it just pushes on nice and easy. Just, away you go. It's in. It's in. 2 of them. Done. Anyhow, but it's 5 o'clock now. And so that's looking pretty good. I got 2 pistons kind of ready to go there. So I'm happy with that progress. And don't you know, it's Friday, and I did a little bit of work on the Triumph this week, and there's a video there you can look at. Yeah, so the last time this was on the road was 19079. I wonder what that means. Expires on last day of month in punched year. So that must be 07. August, June, July of 07, maybe. Who knows, eh? Maybe 07 was the last year it was on the highway. Who knows? It was inspected sometime. And that's quite a long time ago. 13, 14 years. Which I guess, yeah, that makes sense. Anyway, Bernie's being a garage hound because it's raining out. Well, it's been raining all day. There, I'll let him out now. So, anyhow, that's it for this week. I'll get a video out for you guys, and hope you do enjoy it. Might get this thing together next week. Still waiting for parts for the Porsche and a few other things. I'll see if I can put this together without having to take it apart, right? That'd be a goal. Is that a good goal? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, see you all later. Yeah, back down to the cove, right? See what happens here today, if anything. Might be some, well, the water's not as rowely today as it was yesterday. Actually, looks pretty nice out there. And on the pond, there is nothing except for mosquitoes, which are biting me. Lots of birdies singing. I don't know if you can hear that or not. And the wild roses are coming out in a big way. Yep. A couple hours before high tide. Another normal day at the beach.